Alrighty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show here on the Cave, cavetalkradio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app. Great to have you aboard, Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, and we are ready to roll. A lot to get to today, a lot of cool stuff. Hey, it's the NBA season, baseball around the corner, NFL hot stove cooking up. Did a lot of NFL stuff yesterday, not so much today. Rant. Apparently not going to be charged with anything, according to a report last night. Did not specifically address the issues at the mall, so we'll see if that's still to unfold. But as it relates to the latest transgression, the video of him showing off his gun, there is no charges here. And I have to say, that just makes sense to me. Look what I've been saying all along. Ultimately, no one got hurt. Ultimately, it was dumb. But that was it. Dumb is not illegal. And for cops or law enforcement to press charges, thankfully, it has to be actually illegal. It actually has to be a crime. And generally speaking, a crime has to involve a victim of some kind. Someone has to get hurt, wronged, robbed, whatever. None of that happened here. I'm talking specifically and only about the thing with him on his video showing this gun off. The article I read did not in any way address the mall situation. That seems to have just kind of died down, which tells me there's probably an ongoing investigation there that will at some point garner some type of resolution one way or the other. But for the people that wanted the league to throw the book at him over a YouTube video, essentially a TikTok video, whatever platform it was, like, don't be so judgmental. Don't be so sensitive to something that didn't hurt anyone. Yeah, it was dumb. Everyone knows it was stupid. But ultimately, it was essentially a picture on a video. It did nothing. It does nothing. You can't hurt someone by showing something on camera, no matter what that something is. That's ultimately all that happened. I mean, there was Plaxico Burress came to not quite the defense, but chimed in on the situation, which makes sense. He would have personal knowledge of situations like this. And for those who don't remember, his situation was he had a handgun that was legally registered in New York, but he was in Florida on some kind of trip, vacation, whatever it was. He had a legal handgun, concealed carry, the whole thing for New York. It was in Florida. These licenses, unfortunately, are not necessarily reciprocal state to state. And he was in a club, and the gun discharged. He shot himself in the leg, and he got charged with some type of. I think he even did a little time. He got charged with some kind of crime because of the lack of a valid license. Now, I remember at the time I was doing a show in the Buffalo area when that happened, and I made more or less the same argument I'm making here, which is, there was no victim here except for Plaxico himself. So, and really, realistically, I think, and this is, of course, it's not the loss, but I've always said it really should be, a concealed carry permit should be reciprocal from state to state. It really should be, because that's just a lot to keep track of. It's not, so they threw the book at him by the letter of the law. They had a legal case, and he did what he had to do, and that was that. But in the spirit of what a crime is, that was not a crime. No one got hurt. There was no intent. There was no victim. There was no motive. It was a failure of tracking paperwork and a unfortunate accident where he shot himself with his own gun that he really legally owned, but because of technicality of state reciprocity, didn't. So that's probably as close to this Morant story as we've seen kind of since then. And I'm happy that at least this piece of it is being addressed in the most sensible way, which is just to say nothing. Now, the mall situation, we'll see if that plays out, if there's still going to be more to come with that. We know on the NBA side, he is looking at another couple of games, at least with the Grizzlies being out. No word yet on exactly when he'll be back, but it sounds to me, unless there's some movement on the legal side, that there's a pretty good chance, Rich, that he'll be back after these 4 games. What's that? How'd you mean?
I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, unless there's something here to say, like if some of that stuff at the mall proves to be true, some of that stuff is actual criminal activity. You know, hitting people
Right.
with the butt of a gun, as he was accused of doing, and intimidating people. Like, there's at least some misdemeanor there. But, you know, I don't know if any of it rises to the level of felony. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm fairly well read. And, you know, unfortunately, when you cover sports long enough, you get to know what criminal activity is, because it happens.
Right.
But I think that as long as there's nothing imminent on that front, I mean, yeah, he should be able to go about his business. I mean, why wouldn't he?
I agree. I agree completely. There's not, like you said, stupid does not equal
Illegal.
illegal.
Right, it's not the same thing. If it was, there would be no people on the streets. There would be like,
Right.
we'd all be in prison, every one of us.
I mean, was this egregiously stupid? Yes.
Oh, it was. Oh God, yeah. You'll never hear me defend the sensibility of what he did, but it's not illegal. And I also think that people greatly overreact in a negative way to people lawfully having and displaying firearms. It is a constitutional right. And it's also a very foundational element of being a human, is to have the ability to defend yourself in the situation. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that John Morant was defending himself on this video. This was just flat stupid. But the reaction to it, of how this was this big deal, is equally stupid. When I saw it, I said, well, that's dumb. But I didn't have a twinge of, oh my God, how could he do that? This is dangerous. But like, that didn't cross my mind. I was like, well, that's stupid. And that was the end of it. Like, but the reaction to it by a lot of people was equally stupid.
Yes.
You've watched the same crap on movies for your whole life. There's nothing appreciably different from what Morant did with this video and any Bruce Willis movie. It's the same thing. Bruce Willis is a little cooler, but you know,
yeah.
but that's the only difference. So I'm just happy that, because there was a report I thought I saw, and I guess it was a spoof, but it was a really good one because it had me fooled. I'm glad I didn't post it, but I thought I saw Shams Charania saying that Adam Silver was going to suspend him for 50 games. And this was a couple of days ago. And
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it came across, but I guess it was either rescinded or it was a really, really good spoof, because I haven't been able to see it again since then. So, which is good, because that would have been crazy. I mean, if they suspended John Morant for 50 games on something like this, that would have been really, really nuts.
They have nothing to base that on.
Well, exactly, nothing. Now, if the stuff at the mall turns out to be true, then
that's different.
You have a basis, absolutely. And, you know, probably an NBA suspension, depending to what extent that stuff is true and which part of it, would be the least of Ja's concerns in that case, because some of that stuff would carry jail time, most likely.
Right.
But,
you know, because you have that right to carry a weapon.
Yep.
And nowhere does it say you have a right to brandish it in the crowd to show off. That's not part of the deal. But you have a right to carry it. You have a right to conceal it.
But you know what? Colorado, where this happened, is an open carry state. So that is being able to display it. That's exactly what that means. So
there's a difference between displaying it on you and brandishing it like you're showing it off.
Well, sure there is, but
one is stupid.
Oh, absolutely. Though you'll never hear me say this wasn't dumb. But you and I both know that while there's definitely a difference between brandishing it and displaying it, the law is not always that common sense based. If I'm the defense attorney, that's an easy argument to say, hey, it's an open carry state. And by the letter of the law, I probably win that argument.
Right. because it is an open
Right,
carry
exactly.
state.
Exactly. So I think he's going to be okay here, barring anything weird with that mall situation. Because the mall thing, I think, was in Tennessee, and the video was in Colorado.
Right.
If I got my facts straight there. And
Right.
Tennessee, I don't know if it's open carry. I think it might be, but I do know it has some of the most forgiving and accommodating gun laws in the country,
Right.
just overall. So he picked two good states to be an idiot in.
Well, if you got to be an idiot there.
He picked two good states to be an idiot in. But I'll tell you what, I just want him to get back on the court. I love watching this guy play. This guy's an absolute dynamo on the court, and I just want to see him on the court when it boils right down to it. As long as he
Of
didn't
course.
physically hurt anyone where he needs to do time for committing a crime. Okay, this was dumb. Let's move on. Let's get him back on the court. This guy's as good a basketball player and as fun a basketball player as there is in the NBA right now. Like, I want to see him play again.
I agree. I don't agree that's the reason he should be on the court is because he's good.
Oh, no, of course not. If he's did something illegal, he needs to do his time.
I just think that, wow, you use your head, dude. You weren't even raised like that. That's the thing that gets to me.
Yes. I totally agree.
It's just, why? You don't have to show off to anyone. You're Ja Morant. And if you feel the need to show off to these people, then you're hanging out with the wrong people.
Oh, there's no question about it. He needs to update his circle.
And I'm sure if the Grizzlies haven't addressed that, they are.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of one NBA hot topic to another, we teased at the end of the show yesterday. We got some audio from Charles Barkley directly rebuking Kendrick Perkins on his take on why Jokic is the MVP or maybe the MVP. This is a really interesting take. A lot of people really got behind JJ Redick, who also directly rebuked Perkins on this. I don't think we have that audio. We have the Barkley audio. I hate agreeing with JJ Redick because I think he's a moron, but he's absolutely right in this case. We'll explain on the other side. We'll get the Barkley audio back after this in 1 minute or 2 minutes rather. Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All right, we are back here on the Gary Ayd Show. It's great to have you aboard, Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, and here is Charles Barkley talking about Kendrick Perkins and just his overall, I don't know, racism. Take a listen.
That's asinine and silly. Asinine, silly, and stupid. Pick one of the words, whatever one you want.
Well, there you go. Nice and short. Here's a little more from Barkley.
If only 5 white guys have won MVP in the last 30 years, that makes zero sense, this argument. 0 cents. Because if that was the case, we'd have a lot more white MVPs if white guys or girls, ladies, excuse me, I don't want to leave them out. If they're only going to vote for white guys for MVP, wouldn't the numbers be like, instead of 6 out of the last 30, wouldn't the numbers be like way, way worse?
Yeah, I mean, so there you go. That one more explains it. So the essence of this is Perkins made the argument that Jokic is winning the MVP the last few years and likely to win it again this year because he's white. That was the argument. And so Barkley is being very logical there. If that was the case, if there is bias towards white guys winning MVPs, if there's been 6 in the last 30, I didn't exactly check those numbers, but that sounds about right. If that's close to accurate, wouldn't that suggest that Perkins' argument is, well, as Barkley said, asinine? Certainly makes sense to me. Here's one more.
I agree.
Here's one more piece from Barkley.
You know, I always talk about ESPN disease. A lot of these guys, when they get on TV, instead they're like, well, I'm on ESPN. I gotta say something provocative. And you know the thing about it, you're always gonna get some fools out there. You guys probably got some fools calling in agreeing with him.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, so that's the thing that bothers me at times. Like, I can promise you this, I've never said anything on television just to get clicks. That don't mean I've been right or wrong, whatever. But I've never said something I'm like, well, I know people going to react and go crazy. Let me say this. And this is what bothers me also. Man, race is such a touchy subject.
Yeah.
Because very few people have a pure heart is what I call it. We can talk about race as much as you want to, as long as you're going to be fair and honest. But to slander this man in this situation is just total BS.
Bravo, Charles Barkley. He nailed it. All
Yes,
3
he
of those
did.
takes were perfect.
He absolutely did.
He couldn't be more right. I don't have a whole lot to add to that other than to say that I think ultimately Jokic is probably, even though he's going to win 3 straight MVPs, most likely, he's probably underappreciated because we really never talk about him as the best player in the NBA. And we really probably should. He's awesome. I mean, that's how you win 3 straight MVPs, or 2 and maybe 3.
Right.
There's no other way to do it. And I think that it's so refreshing to hear a prominent person, and of course it's Barkley, because Barkley will say the truth. That's what makes him so successful. It's refreshing to hear someone outwardly call out an issue of race when the victim in the discussion is a white guy. Usually you don't see that. And it's just nice to see that, because like I've said my whole life, racism is not a one-way street. And what Kendrick Perkins said is blatant racism.
Oh, yes,
There's
it is.
nothing else to it. It's 100% racism and nothing else. There's no logic to his argument. There's no discernible... Look, every year in the NBA, basically, you can make a reasonable argument for about 5 guys or so for MVP. That's true.
Right.
And no one would have been upset in the last 2 years if Embiid or Luka or Giannis or LeBron or Curry, any of those guys won the award. It all would have been reasonable. Jokic won it, and it was just as reasonable. Just because it happens to be a few years in a row doesn't mean there's some ulterior motive. Have you looked at his stats for all 3 years? Have you looked at his team success? Why isn't he deserving in any of them? He is.
I agree with that too. But his whole thing is he's trying to rebut JJ Redick and not letting Redick finish a sentence, which is typical of a blowhard like Perkins.
Yep.
Was those are the facts? Those are the facts. Those are the facts. No, they're not facts.
No, they're not. They're your bias and disdain for great white basketball players. You're being a racist. Period.
And the other one that bothers me about this, well, they have it easy, these white guys. Well, first of all, no, they don't.
Yeah, right.
Second of all, what? Because they'll get MVP without winning a championship. Well, what does that make Embiid then if he wins MVP this year?
So let's
and
see.
Doesn't win a title.
Karl Malone, David Robinson,
Charles
Chamberlain,
Barkley.
Charles Barkley. I could keep going. There's 75 of these, and about 62 of them are black guys, and probably a third of them didn't win a championship the year they won MVP, maybe more.
That's not what an MVP vote's about. He's making that argument because he has to know to himself that the other one is incredibly stupid.
Right.
Well, he may not know because
yeah,
that bulb's not burning that bright.
It does make you sick. And this is the problem with television analysts in all sports, because the people that hire these guys are completely and totally obsessed with hiring former players and former coaches. The problem is not all of those guys, in fact, a minority of those guys don't have the requisite talent, skill, and acumen to do that job very well. For every Greg Anthony, there's 5 Kendrick Perkins out there. Now, Tim Legler's awesome. Greg Anthony's tremendous. Clark Kellogg is great. There's a lot of really good ones.
Kenny Smith does a good
job. Smith does a good job. Well, that whole show is great. But there's a lot of guys who aren't any good. There's a lot of guys that aren't any good.
Right.
And it's because you're hiring them based on their previous job, not their ability to do the job you're hiring them for. And that's the reason. It's not their fault. I don't expect a guy that's never been on television to do well at it. I mean,
don't you think that guy, though, should have said, hey, I'm not confident enough at this. Can we work on some things?
I mean, it would be
he doesn't have to because they've offered him the job. That's the fault of the network.
Well, that's what I mean. I put this on the network. Okay, so ready? Here we go. I just pulled up the NBA MVPs, okay? I'm looking at these, and I'm not going to go all the way back in time, but I could, but looking at these, Wilt Chamberlain in 1961, the MVP, didn't win the championship. Oscar Robertson in 64, MVP, no championship. Wilt in 66, 67, and 68. He won 1 championship in those 3 years. So that's 5 already. I haven't even got to the 70s yet. So you can go through this. These are all black guys. These are all guys who won MVP and didn't win a championship.
Throw McAdoo in there. He won MVP.
Yeah, McAdoo. Barkley we mentioned. David Robinson we mentioned. Karl Malone we mentioned. Karl Malone again we mentioned. That's twice. Allen Iverson, 2001. Tim Duncan won the MVP in a year. He didn't win a championship, 2002. Kevin Garnett, 2004. I can keep on going. LeBron James, more than once. Kevin Durant. Guys, let's James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Giannis, once. That's just a stupid argument. And it's not true. And in a 30-second air clip with a quick Google search, I just showed you that.
Yes, you did.
So let's chill. I did see in the comments here that I think it's Austin said that to be fair, Embiid is better than Jokic. I don't think that's really true either. I don't know that I could say Jokic is conclusively better than Embiid. Those two guys are great. They're very different. They're both amazing.
Which one's averaging the triple-double again?
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm not taking anything away from
Embiid's averaging like
Embiid at
35
all.
points a game, though.
Right. He's an incredible ball player. But that, I don't know, that whole argument is just.
Look, I wouldn't be upset if Embiid won the MVP this year. He's perfectly deserving.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, the guy's a monster, but so is Jokic. So anyway, there we have it. All right. So now that we've covered the law, we've covered race, we've covered television network hiring, maybe we should talk about some games. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do the question of the day. That'll be next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right. So before we get to the question of the day, I just want to add one more thing real quick. I don't know, over the last couple of years, Rich, I'd say the last 3 or so years, I don't know that there's been a harder decision for the MVP voters in my memory of the NBA than the last couple of years. There are so many guys who are just so completely worthy of this award the last few years. I would not want to make that distinction.
It's difficult.
It's hard. There's so
every
many.
year there's a few people that deserve it.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
always
yes.
more than one.
Yes. No question. No doubt
But
about it.
This year it's really tough.
It's hard because, I mean, you got Embiid, you got Jokic, you got Giannis has come on really strong the second half of the season.
Yes.
I think Jalen Brunson has some argument, or Julius Randle. But I think they probably cancel each other out, to be honest. But I mean, there's just been, I mean, certainly you have to look at Luka like normal, but they haven't had a good enough season. I guess this year it's really the three. If I was gonna say, I think it's Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic right now, kind of leading the pack.
That makes sense.
But they're both really good. And I understand the desire to give the award to Embiid. Because he's worthy. I wouldn't I wouldn't understand it if it was just like, well, he's having a pretty good year, but he hasn't won it yet, so it's kind of his turn. Like, there's still an element of that to the voting, I'm sure, but it's within the confines of a wholly worthy season, so I'm okay with it. There's nothing that he's missing from his bona fides or credentials based on how he's played this year that would discredit him from winning if he won it. even if there's a little bit of that working in his favor, if he hasn't won it yet, we want to give it to him. He's earned it, even if that's still working in his favor.
Right.
All right, let's go
I
ahead.
wouldn't have any issue if Embiid got it. Not at all.
No, how could you? All right, we're gonna take one quick break, real quick, and then we're gonna do the question of the day. Right back.
But you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
XFL ratings have gone from bad to worse. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, you may qualify for a free continuous glucose monitor system. Managing your diabetes is crucial to your health. The new CGM systems can automatically manage your diabetes better for you. And by using a CGM system, you can eliminate forever one thing most people with diabetes hate the most: finger sticks. Now it's possible to manage your diabetes better, end the painful finger sticks, and get a new CGM monitoring system at little or no cost to you. We even provide in-home delivery and do all the insurance paperwork for you. Now is the best time to manage your diabetes better and get your continuous glucose monitor. Call now for details. Call 800-438-1391. 800-438-1391. 800-438-1391. That's 800-438-1391.
If the XFL's Week 1 ratings were disappointing, then the second week drop-off was a hot mess. Sports Media Watch reports the 4 games in Week 2 averaged less than 700,000 viewers, a 50% decline from the 4 games in Week 1. For comparison, the Week 1 to Week 2 drop in 2020 was a much lower 34%. Sports Business Journal's Austin Karp reports that while league and network execs had expected a Week 2 drop, they hadn't anticipated such a significant slide. Question: do you or do you not think the XFL is doomed?
I mean, they were never going to be like a household name, but I think they have a narrow path to at least temporary relevancy and potential solvency. And that path is the path I believe they started down, which is basically serving as a petri dish or experiment lab for the NFL, trying out different rules, formations, roster construction, anything that the NFL might want to like get a look at high level football to determine if it's something they want to institute. I think gives them a narrow path to being relevant. The only other potential path I see, and this would take some time, they'd have to be around a while and have some success to have a shot at this. But I could also see them getting to the point, if they're around long enough, that the G League is now just starting to get to, which is an alternate path to the pros as opposed to college. But the XFL does not have the history, the cachet, or the funding yet to do that, and it won't for some time. But if they're able to leverage this initial path of being a petri dish for the NFL long enough and profitably enough, they might eventually be able to also add that to their toolkit as an alternate path for high-level prospects versus college football. And that would be the other option. Those are the only two. Like, they're never going to be a competitor of the NFL.
Right. Oh, none of these leagues can. Not at all. And are people actually thinking of them like that? I can't
No,
see that big of
no.
an expectation.
No,
on these
no,
leagues.
I'm sure they're not. But like, if that's not the case, then what is your niche? Then I guess that's the crux of this question. Is not so much are they doomed or are they not doomed? It's like, well, any business is doomed if it doesn't have a purpose, doesn't
Right.
serve a role in the marketplace. Of course, it's doomed. Doesn't matter if it's football, a doctor's office, a coffee shop. If your product is crap or it doesn't fit in a need, then yeah, you're doomed.
Right. I agree completely.
By the way, who's Dwayne? Dylan's writing, Dwayne's going to beat your butt. I'm emailing this to him now. Who's Dwayne and what are we emailing?
I have no
Are
idea.
we talking about Dwayne Wade here or what? I think he's too busy, being a retired basketball player to bother with me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So that's an interesting question. Now, I mean, because really, I think the XFL has to position itself as a tester for the NFL and has to monetize in that way. So it's not exactly just as simple as we're going to be a tester for the NFL, because no one comes out and watches the scientists work in the lab and run the experiments, but they get
Right.
paid. They don't get paid by an audience, though. They get paid by the entity that they're doing the experiments on behalf of. So the XFL has to like formalize this with the NFL and actually draw a payment from them for those overt services. I don't know that they've
True.
kind of gone that far yet, but that's, I think, to me, that would be the angle I would be pushing it.
I mean, have you watched an XFL game?
I watched a half right before COVID, because they relaunched right before COVID. And so I did watch that. I haven't watched since, though.
So you've seen nothing this season.
Correct.
I've seen nothing this season.
Right.
I think that's kind of the consensus.
Oh, I agree, which is why I think they have to actually get paid by the NFL to be like a tester, because they're not going to draw, they'll make some money. There'll be some people to watch, some people to go to the games, but they're not going to support a league that's going to have their type of overhead on what they're likely to draw from those traditional sources.
Right.
So they need something else.
Was the XFL playing in like 2 cities again? Was that the league that was playing in 2 cities last year?
No,
And
I think
one had home
I
games?
think that was the USFL, UCFL, or something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't the XFL. No, that was someone else.
Because, I mean, first of all, if you have too many of these leagues, you're fighting for a very small sliver of the pie, and none of them are going to be successful.
Right. Oh, right. No. Oh, that's exactly right.
The
So
league that does attach itself to the NFL has a chance.
has a shot, right? Yeah. So your existence has to be, how can we be of service to the NFL, and then maybe later down the line, how can we be either of service or more likely a competitor to college football for talent? Because
Yeah.
honestly, if I was a high school kid, particularly in football, definitely in basketball too, in any sport, I'm not interested in going to college and, Okay, now I have NIL, but I can have NIL and draw a salary too.
Right.
Why wouldn't I do that? If I'm going to take the risk of my body, particularly in football, and I have to do it for 3 years, why in the hell wouldn't I try to get paid?
Of course.
It just makes sense.
But how many high school seniors are able to play on that level?
Well, it's going to be the same number that can play for Alabama, Auburn, whatever. What I'm saying is if you're an XFL team or any other alternative league, your goal should be to have a similar level of play to major college football and serve as an alternative, a paid alternative to that level. And if the NFL looks at you that way, then you become incredibly valuable because now you're getting players drafted all the time. And now it becomes, you might get a piece of the television action at a higher rate over some time because now you're a competitor for the college guys that everyone watches now in college. Now, this is years and probably decades away. I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but that would be my long-term vision. And in the short term, I'm just going to be the lab for the NFL. That's how I would attack this.
Because the only minor league the NFL had any stake in at all was the World's League.
Yeah, NFL Europe, it used to be known.
Yeah, that have 6 teams and 5 were in Germany. So that wasn't really that much of the world. And Germany was the only place they drew. I think the NFL can draw anywhere.
Oh, without a doubt.
NFL itself. I don't think these other leagues can.
No, probably not. Yeah.
Do we need more than one if one has a handle on this, has the right direction?
No. Oh, without a doubt, no. I think we have 2 right now because there's 2 that are trying to position themselves. There's going to be a winner and a loser. There might be 2 losers. They might both go under. That's a very good possibility. It's probably the most likely possibility, in fact. But if either is to survive, I'm pretty sure the path I've outlined is the only path that's available. And one of them is going to get it and the other is not, if either get it at all. They're both not going to exist.
They have to align themselves.
Well, one's going to just cease to exist, ultimately.
They have to align themselves with the NFL.
Right.
That's the only way either one of these leagues has a chance. Because how many times have these leagues folded and come back?
Well, that's the thing. You see, I was just going to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. Like every 5 to 10 years or so in one sport or another, we see one of these leagues pop up trying to be like what the AFL or the ABA was 50, 60 years ago. You can't do that. That was a different time. Professional sports is a whole different class at that moment. It was the right time. There's a reason those 2 leagues more or less were around at more or less in the same years. And for almost the same amount of time. Like the AFL was around a little longer, but like they were around basically the same years for the same reason. Sports in America at that time was at a sort of a turning point, a pivot point, an inflection point, and they rode that wave temporarily to relevancy. That was a unique circumstance. Sports now is such a monopoly.
Television started taking over at that point.
Right, exactly. That's the big difference.
Events.
Right. Exactly. And that's the big difference because now those TV contracts are worth so much money to the established leagues, you can't possibly compete because you're not going to get a fraction of that if you get any at all. They're just not because 1, you don't have the audience, and 2, when a league is that tied into a network, there is obviously significant relationships there, and if not formal exclusivity, de facto exclusivity.
But the AFL in particular filled a niche. It brought markets in that weren't previously considered or were and not chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a television deal.
Yep.
And that deal got stronger as they went along. It was with NBC.
Mm-hmm.
And that deal did get stronger. And that's television money helped that league. The ABA didn't have that. And they were on fumes when the merger happened. If the NBA wanted to, they could have waited them out one more year because they were down to about 6 teams and one was not going to be able to play.
Right. Yeah. No,
Where the AFL was strong.
They were strong. Yeah. Yep. And there was a very interesting era in football the mid 60s to the early 70s was a very interesting time in the history of football. Because not only was it an era of competition between the two leagues, but remember the NFL itself as a true national power really didn't start making those inroads until the quote greatest game ever played, which was the 1958 NFL championship with the
Right.
Giants and the Colts.
The overtime.
The overtime game. And so that was when the AFL came about. When did the AFL get formed? Was it 62, 63?
60 they came
60.
around.
So it was just 2 years later.
They agreed to the merger in 67 and they actually merged in 70.
Yeah. And so if you think about it from that context, the NFL as a national power was just beginning to get its sea legs when a real formidable competitor came to pass. That's why,
Right.
like I said before, that was such a unique situation because now if you're going to come in to try to compete with the NFL, they're like, the jolly green giant. Well, they're not so jolly. The big old green giant. Like back then they were like just kind of hitting their growth spurt as a league in the national prevalence. So they were a little bit more susceptible to a good competitor. Now I don't want to say they're invincible, but they're pretty close. I mean,
very close.
I mean, put it this way. They put that Hall of Fame game crap on every year and it does better numbers than like all the other sports playoff games.
Right.
That's all you need to know. It's dumb.
So does the draft.
The draft, the combine, all this crap. I mean, and it is. Most of it's garbage. I mean, I'm mildly interested in the draft some years, depending on who's coming out in college or whatever. But I have no interest in watching the combine, and I have even less interest in watching the Hall of Fame game.
I have zero interest in the combine. I'll see a bit of the draft.
Yeah.
But it's just by the time it actually happens, which is way too long after the season ends.
Yeah, you're not thinking about it.
I'm not even thinking of that.
Right.
It's not must see for me to see the draft.
Me either. I mean, I usually will watch the top 10 or so picks because, like, those are potentially franchise altering players. And depending on who's in the draft that year and what teams are picking where, some years I have slightly more interest in others, but it's peripheral for me too. It's not must watch, but I usually catch some of it.
It's not one of those, like I always say, you gotta watch. Your team might be picking any minute.
That's right. Exactly.
Of course, you'll have to wait 20 minutes to find out who it is, but they might be picking.
That's right.
And to me, that's just.
Yep. I'm with you. All right. Well, there we have it. Good morning, Gia. Thanks for checking us out. By the way, quick shout out for Gia. I was there the other day at Coffee Barn. They have these rice balls, and the guy that makes them, Joe, made gyro rice balls. Oh, baby, those were good. It was a good lunch yesterday.
I just look at the stuff from there, and I think everything at that place just sounds incredible.
Yeah, it is pretty good. So anyway, all right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We will get to the top 5. We got our baseball preview still to do. We got news you can use. And of course, we got some NBA games to look at. So that's what's on tap for hour 2. Back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Alrighty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, here on the Cave. A little rearrangement today. I was reminded in the break of a couple of important stories, so we're going to do those real quick. We'll do the top 5 next segment, and then we'll do our baseball stuff and news you can use to wrap it up. Jim Boeheim, retired, fired. I don't know. It's being presented as retiring, but he doesn't use those words. So I think it was not quite retiring. But in any event, 47 years. We talk about the great cranks of sports. We always forget to mention him, but he certainly was one of them. He had his moments. He could be very gregarious and friendly, but he could also be very Greg Popovich-ish with the best of them.
Very true.
So we're losing another crank. We're running out of these guys. There's not many left.
Oh, there'll be ones to take their place. Don't worry.
I feel like Thibodeau's
47 years.
That's a long time.
He played there for 4 years.
Yep.
That's like over 50 years of his life spent at that university. That's what you call a lifer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, he has himself a national title. He's had some very good teams. He will be looked at favorably by a lot of people. And I think deservedly so. I wouldn't say he was one of the great coaches.
No, he
but
was
47 years says a lot.
You know, it's interesting. I think the timing of this is, I would even say, overdue. Because for a long time now, I've wondered what Syracuse really is. They give the vibe of a mid-major that still thinks of itself as a major player. I liken them to what Indiana's been since Bobby Knight. They're like still somewhat relevant. They're on the periphery of relevant, but they're not really a threat. The same way like Nebraska used to be a real power is now sort of a peripheral threat in the football world. Syracuse has kind of gone into that realm. And I'm not sure that a new coach will change that, but I am sure Boeheim wasn't going to.
Oh, I don't think a new coach will change that. There was a difference from being a power in the Big East than a power in the ACC, which contains half of the Big East.
Right.
It's a very large conference.
Yep.
And more difficult to win in and difficult to get seeds in. Maybe a new voice is just what they need. And supposedly it's going to be Adrian Autry, another former Syracuse player, and he's been on Boeheim's bench for a while.
I was surprised it wasn't Jerry McNamara. He's been there forever too.
Yeah.
And of course, he's a legendary player from that 03 team.
Yes, he is.
I'll say this. I also think it's not the least bit surprising to see Boeheim bow out, whether by choice or by coercion, in a short period of time after Jay Wright, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams. I believe this NIL stuff is just not for these guys. I think it's as simple as that.
I don't disagree.
And I don't blame him.
Disagree. This changes the game a lot.
Oh, yeah. You really.
And Boeheim stayed away from one and dones a lot, too.
He did. Krzyzewski did that for a time. He reverted course on that about 15 years ago, but for a long time, he didn't do a lot of one and dones either. But I'll say this.
Agreed.
Like I said yesterday, being a college coach now, particularly a college basketball coach, but really both sports, football and college basketball, is basically just being a car salesman at this point. You can't really coach these kids. You're not really allowed to because of a lot of factors, not the least of which is if they don't like it, they'll just transfer.
Right.
And in basketball, especially, that's why I think it's more pronounced in basketball, even though the rosters are much smaller. One and dones were a thing anyway. So now you exacerbate that by the NIL, by the transfer portal, and you further exacerbate it by the NBA has been more proactive in creating legitimate, viable alternative paths and is likely in the next CBA to reallow high school entries. I don't know how you keep players and get players if you're a college basketball coach right now. Everything's working against you. And let alone coach them or push them. Good luck. I don't want that
That's
job.
why mid majors are as relevant as they are,
Yep.
because they get the guys that are going to have to be there at least 3 years.
And you can coach them. You can push them.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And you can make them better.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's that coaching at like Kentucky or Duke or pick your big school right now. I wouldn't want any part of that. That sounds like an awful job. It really does. Like,
Look at how Kentucky coaching gets roasted
mhm,
for having like the best recruits in the country and they can't win.
right. Well, I think Calipari, more than anyone else, saw this coming and understood the landscape before it really completely took its current form. And his whole focus, I think, has been basically get the best guys and get them to the NBA as much as we can, and we'll keep getting the best guys. And 1 year it might pop. And I think that's as good an approach as you could have right now at a power school. I really do.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, that's like, what else are you gonna do?
I can't see any other way. You're not heavily recruiting like Duke with Shane Battier, knowing you're going to have him for 4 years
No.
because he also wants a degree.
Right. Right.
You just don't have that now.
Right. I mean, and why would you want a degree? If I could get drafted into the NBA and even just get a rookie contract for $30 million over 3 or 4 years, $20 million, whatever it is, what do I give a crap about a degree for? I don't. I can get a degree later in my life if I want to for $100,000 or less. You're gonna give me $20 million right
Some
now?
people just do.
Well, that's all well and good, but if I was advising that person, I would tell them, okay, go to school in the summer. Don't turn down that money. Even if you care about the degree, get it in a way where you can grab that money too. Because you can do both. Vince Carter did it. Shaq did it. Other guys have done it. I think Jamal Crawford did something like that. So you can do that. And that's fine if you care about it, matters to you. That's great. But take the money too and get the degree in the meantime along with it.
Oh, yeah. Although, if you're one of those players, how much can you make if you stay in school with an NIL deal?
Well, now with NIL, that's a game changer.
It might not be as bad of an idea to stay 2 years,
right,
if you really want the education, because you'll have a good, part of it knocked off.
Right. No, and that's very true. It depends what you're getting in NIL. Although NIL is just a college term for endorsement deals, basically.
Right.
If I'm in the NBA and if I'm attractive to endorsers for an NIL deal, I'm probably attractive to the similar endorsers for just a traditional sponsorship deal, and I get a salary. I don't think they could ever equal. And so I would always be partial to, even if I care deeply about the degree, I would always be partial to, let me get the degree in summer school or whatever, night classes, online classes. There's a way to do it. I mean, you do have a good amount of downtime as an NBA player between in the off season and, road trips and traveling time. And if you're not an all-star, you have the whole all-star break. There's time to squeak in classes if you want to.
Oh, yeah. Some people might just want a year or two of the college experience too.
And that's okay. And I'm fine with that. But if I was ever advising any of these people, I would never tell them to forego the money. Do what you want to do while also getting the money. Because the truth is, it's not guaranteed. You could blow out your knee. You could be exposed. Look, how many guys have we seen? I guess it's not a ton, but it does happen where Imani Bates is a perfect example of this. He was the guy coming out of high school. Now he's barely relevant. He cost himself probably $30 million at minimum. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I want to avoid that if I can. Because while you think I'm great, good. Maybe I am great. But if I'm not, if I'm Anthony Bennett, if I'm Imani Bates, if I'm Greg Oden, at least I got some money.
Yeah, Bates couldn't have come out after high school.
Well, he wasn't allowed to, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's just the way it is right now. But maybe he could have gone to the G League.
If you're a top 5 draft pick, yeah, you could come out with a 5-year deal worth maybe
20 million,
30
million,
$25 million.
Yep, exactly.
And that's not it's not bad.
No.
Even if you do flame out.
If you flame out, you got a nice head start in life.
Right. Unless you blow it all.
Well, yeah, but yeah. Can't help you there. I think though that would be my thing. So getting back to Boeheim, very accomplished career. I don't think of him on the same wavelength as Krzyzewski or Calipari or Jay Wright or Tom
No.
Izzo. He's a notch below those guys. He certainly has longevity on his side, but his teams were always on the periphery of good. They had a run where they were like Sweet 16 good for a sustained period of time. That was about his high level of sustained excellence. Of course, they had the 1 year where it popped and they won the whole thing, but they weren't like a perennial Final Four threat the way Michigan State is, the way Duke was, the way Kentucky was.
Right.
So
I wonder if they'd have stayed a little more relevant had they stayed in the Big East. Didn't Villanova?
yeah, that's a good point.
And look, they've won championships.
Yep, that's a great point. I don't think Jay Wright's done with coaching. I expect to see him in the NBA in some capacity. I really do. I think Jay Wright's a brilliant basketball man, and he's a little younger than the Boeheims and the Krzyzewskis and the Roy Williams of the world.
Right.
Jay's what, like late 50s, early 60s?
Unless he's just had enough and says he just wants to enjoy life.
I mean, maybe he feels that way right now, but what I'm saying is because he is comparatively young, I think he'll get the desire, like he might change his mind again, is my point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's young enough where that could happen.
And that competitive edge never goes
It never
away.
goes away. Boeheim's what, 78? Roy Williams is 75. I mean, yeah, those guys are older.
And why would they come to the NBA? I mean, it can do nothing for you but hurt.
Well, I mean, unless you just want to work.
I mean, look at John Beeline.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, unless you just want to work. Because I think the reason those guys all left their posts when they did, Boeheim aside, I think Boeheim was more or less fired. But
I think he was asked to leave.
That's what I mean. He was more or less fired.
He wasn't told, hey, you're
he wasn't fired.
And
but he was
announced
fired.
that you're leaving.
Yeah. But Krzyzewski certainly stepped down by his own recognizance, as did Roy Williams, as did Jay Wright. Those three were much different situations. And I think other than Wright, the other two, they probably all viewed it the same way. They probably all viewed it like, hey, there's really no difference now between college and the NBA with this NIL stuff. And that's why they left. So I could see Wright at some point saying, maybe I'll just be an NBA coach. Maybe, he's young enough. I think the other guys are done. I mean, they're all in their 70s. Right. There's no reason for them to come back. It doesn't make sense, really. And Krzyzewski's very busy with his radio show and all that stuff.
Podcast. Yeah. He is keeping busy. Now, another Syracuse question.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to give that look of being a contender and wanting to get back into the ranks of the contenders, wouldn't you have done more of a search for a coach?
I would have. Absolutely. Or I would have gone with someone who's more identifiable with the program. I would have gone with Jerry McNamara. Like, if you're not going to do a search, that's the guy to just anoint. He at least has cachet among people who follow Syracuse sports, boosters, I'm sure. And also, I mean, if I'm a kid and I'm considering Syracuse, there's a good chance I know something about their history. And if I know anything about their history, I know who he is.
Yeah.
Because he's from the most important team in the school's history, that 03 team.
And Autry was a nice player, but
yeah, right.
Not nowhere near in that same class. But that's
it's an interesting.
I don't know.
It's
just like they threw it up in the air saying, well, let's expect more of this.
Yep. No, I agree. And
then a program with the kind of cachet they had at one time should have done something of a head coaching search.
Absolutely. Little NFL news. Chuck Clark has been traded by the Ravens to the Jets, the safety. So that should help the Jets defense a little bit. And Fred VanVleet, not a happy person. I understand. I haven't seen this. Apparently there's a press conference that he was upset at the refs. I'll say one thing about the NBA. Kevin Durant slipped in warmups and hurt his ankle. So right back out.
They say it's not serious.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Until
Although they looked pretty good last night without him.
Yeah, well, that's true. They did. Devin Booker is a one-man wrecking crew. Guy's amazing.
Now, if they ever get enough time out of Durant and the team stays healthy, might be worth watching. Hey, while we're here, what's your take on the Knicks-Kings game tonight? Do they bounce back?
This is an exciting game. I think they do. De'Aaron Fox is out for this one for the Kings. Brunson probably will be out. He's doubtful. Fox is straight out.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks do bounce back. I think that they score enough points and play enough defense that I think they'll probably hold the Kings a little bit below their season average. And I think if the Knicks play to their abilities on offense, they can be in the game.
They better hold them below their season average.
Yes.
It's 121
I
points.
know. Unbelievable. But without Fox, I think it will be a little easier to pull that off.
Yeah. Should be a really good game, though.
No, it really should. It's worth noting we mentioned KD. Luka Doncic also banged up with a hip injury that's been apparently nagging him since the second game post All-Star break. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, but he really didn't look good leaving the court.
No, he didn't. No, that's why I mentioned it. Yeah. Probably more severe than Durant's ankle injury, but looks like we might have an update on Durant too, according to Monty Williams. Let's take a listen. I have no idea what this is. I just see this in my audio notes here from the service we subscribe to. Let's take a listen. I have no idea what he's going to say. He might say nothing.
No, it's just a ankle sprain, and we don't have anything official to report.
Okay.
I think every team in the NBA is.
Nothing official to report. I don't need to hear the rest of this. It's 35 seconds of coach speak. That's what that means. I kind of thought that was probably the case, but hey, worth taking a listen.
Okay, an ankle sprain. That's has those spindly little legs, though. They're more of a problem than they're worth.
I mean, I guess he's had a legendary all-time career in spite of him, though.
Yeah. He has, but he's also missed time. A lot of it.
Yeah, he has. So there you have it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Let's take a look at our baseball preview. Today we got who are we doing today, Rich? What do we want to dive into? What do we do? We did Cincinnati yesterday, right? So let's.
Do I have it down here somewhere? Who did I say? No, we didn't do the Reds.
Oh no, that is today. Yeah, we got.
That's who we're doing today.
Yeah, we got.
What about the AL? We said Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yep. So we got Cincinnati and Minnesota. That's what it is today. Yeah, we were talking about doing the Reds. So they get to be ridiculed today. Oh God, what a team!
Yeah, I think I have notes too. So let's.
All right. Well, we got that's what we got coming up here. We got the Reds and the Twins. So we're back after this. Gary Ayd Show here in the cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch. Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All righty, we are back, and let's dive right into this baseball preview. The Cincinnati Reds. This is one of those teams, Rich. We went through this exercise, I think it was Tuesday. They're one of these teams that absolutely just cashes the revenue share check and keeps it moving. They're another team that, for the most part, in my whole life, has never really been relevant. A couple of years here or there, flashes in the pan. But for the most part, they've been just a perennial bottom feeder, which is such a crime. That city has such a legendary baseball history and is such a beautiful stadium and such inept and indifferent ownership. It's really a crime.
It is. And I mean, even as recently as 2 years ago, they got off to a hell of a start.
And then they sold everybody because they realized, oh crap, these guys are good now, so they're going to want money.
And at the trade deadline, and then later on, Winker, he's gone.
Yep. Well, who was that? Who was that pitcher? Cuevo, was it? Cueto, whatever. I think it was Cueto. Gone.
Cueto.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about them, despite themselves, they keep having good young prospects. They got two of the best pitchers in the National League, Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. They're 23 and 25 years old. Both of them have all-star potential. Either one of them could be an ace. I think Green is going to be an all-star this year. I think he's that good. Their other starters don't have that kind of cachet, but they're good. But who hits? And what do you do with Joey Votto? He's on the last year of that deal.
He's 95 years old.
12-year, $251 million deal or whatever it was.
Still your best player.
And he has an option for next year at $20 million. If they don't pick it up, is he done?
I mean,
or does he go somewhere else?
I know I can't speak for him. I don't know him at all. But I know this. If it was me and I just spent the better part of 20 years and appreciably my whole career playing for that dumpster, I absolutely feel the need to go somewhere. Even if I ring chase, I don't care. Like, I'm signing with the Astros. I'm signing with the Dodgers. I'm signing with the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, someone. One of the high-level contenders. I'll sign for a bucket of balls and some free peanuts for the season. Let me just get a chance to play meaningful baseball in October, please.
He deserves it.
Oh, God, I would feel like cheated that I didn't ever get to do that, or very sparingly got to do that. Oh, God, that would be 100% what I would be doing. He's got that Damian Lillard loyalty to a fault thing going on. It's amazing he hasn't pushed for that earlier.
I think they should talk to him because they're not going to sign him. And I think they should give him the kind of send-off like the Pujols got. And
yes.
Because it's probably going to be his last year there because they are not spending $20 million on him.
And how old is he? He's got to be like 37, right?
36?
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically.
He's meant so much to that franchise, though.
Yeah, he's been the only reason to go to their games for all these years.
I mean, if you look up... if you look in Baseball Reference, and I did a little something on the Reds because I don't know.
Because why not?
He's the fourth best player ever in that franchise as far as driving in runs and run production. He's behind Rose, Bench, and Barry Larkin.
Wow.
Now, either that means he is that great, they've had no one else. It may be a combination of both.
Yeah. And, if I were the Reds, I agree with you completely. Give him his send-off, trade him to a contender, or just release him and just pay the year this year. Let him go sign where he wants to sign. I think you owe him at least that much.
Yeah.
After all these years. I mean, He's been there, what, 16 years, 15 years?
Yeah,
It's a long time. Very long
it
time.
has. It has.
And
And
yeah,
he's had a good career.
he's been, I mean, like I said, he's the only guy there worth watching
Right.
most of this time.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like, and that's a shame because that is a brilliant, brilliant ballpark.
It is. I love that place.
Like, it's like $1 million park, $10 team. Ugh, what a mess. All right.
Get a nice bowl of Cincinnati chili and a cold beer, and oh man,
What else do you need?
it's baseball heaven. Just that.
Yeah, what else do you need? All right.
They've got what? Jonathan India. They have one young player, not a pitcher that I like watching.
There we go. Yeah, so they're probably going to be basement again or close to it. Let's turn our attention to the Twins. They should be mildly competitive at least. They usually are. They were pretty good last year. Their offense is usually pretty strong. A lot of the teams coming back. Of course, Carlos Correa back after trying to sign with everybody. It's like he went out and like had a illicit affairs with everyone, and now he comes back home and acts like nothing's happened. But hey, what are you gonna do? It's business. So he's there. He's gonna be there. Now the question is, how does this team come together after such a weird, unorthodox situation? And then what, even that aside, what does this team look like? I mean, their pitching is not good, but their offense is very good.
Jorge Polanco's a nice second baseman.
Mhm.
I know he had some knee issues last year. As long as he's healthy, as long as Jose Miranda the same way. If he's healthy, there's a third baseman. They have a decent infield. Joey Gallo's going to eat up some at bats. So in the outfield, Buxton's really good. Max Kepler isn't bad. And Michael Taylor isn't bad. And a couple of them, I know, like Buxton can DH. Their pitching. Who do you like on these starters outside of Tyler Mahle? Sonny Gray doesn't do much for me. Pablo Lopez doesn't move the needle. Neither does Joe Ryan.
Sonny Gray is all right, but none of these other guys are even that. This is a bad rotation. There's a bad pitching staff. It just is. Now, the good news for them is they're in a pretty winnable division. They're in a division that is not all that loaded. You have a couple of teams that are like them on the fringe of good, Cleveland, of course. I think the White Sox grossly underachieved last year. It wouldn't surprise me if they were better this year. But Detroit and Kansas City are going to be awful. So the good news is you could probably win this division with about 90 wins, maybe less.
Right. Although I like the way Cleveland looks. I like the way they finished up last year. I like the way they played.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a lot of power.
Nope.
They manufactured runs, and their pitching's pretty good.
Yep.
Minnesota could do something. It depends. Now, for some reason last year, the White Sox, some managerial decisions baffled me, to say the least. But I kind of let it go because it was a legendary manager.
Right. Exactly.
That has changed. Let's see if any of the philosophy is different. Because the talent's there.
Right. Who took over for Tony La Russa in Chicago?
I don't even know.
That's what I was trying to figure out right now. Because I mean,
I'd have to look because my mind is just not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, because to me, that's the best team in that division by talent. They had a lot of injuries last year. They had some mismanagement. It was a total dumpster fire. But I do think that they're a team that, if I was going to take a bet, would be the team I would bet on for the upcoming season to win that division.
That's the team I thought was going to win it last year.
Yeah. But Minnesota and Cleveland have every right to feel that they're right in the thick of that because they probably both will be.
Minnesota's going to have to outscore you.
Yeah, they just have to rake.
Because the pitching is okay
That's right.
at best.
That's right. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do some hockey and news you can use. We're probably going to wrap up here a couple minutes early today, but let's go ahead and take that break. We'll come back. We'll do the news you can use. We'll do the hockey, and we'll see where we go from there. It's the Gary Ayd Show here in the cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
Alrighty, we are back here on the Gary Ayd Show. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, and let's go ahead and hit a quick hockey update before we dive into news you can use.
It was a TNT night last night, so only 3 games. None of them involved locals. None of them sounded particularly exciting. Tonight, all 4 state/local teams are playing. The Buffalo Sabres are hosting Dallas. The Rangers are in Montreal. New Jersey's in Washington to take on the Capitals. And the most interesting of the 4, the Islanders are at Pittsburgh to play the Penguins. They are, Islanders and Pittsburgh in that order, the 1 and 2 wild card seeds in the East. So they're playing each other twice this month, and they're going to jockey for some position. And, of course, the game I'll be watching tonight, a late game, Ottawa at Seattle. Because why not?
Why not? That's right.
Because I have to.
That's right.
But that's another story. Okay, let's look at some news you can use. I saw this headline and I said, how am I going to say this without laughing?
Uh-oh.
But it just sounded interesting to me the way it was worded. Clippers owner Steve Ballmer gets excited about the toilets in his new arena.
What?
I couldn't write something funnier.
What?
There was actually a video, but yeah, the building's going to open in a couple of years, and Ballmer said they asked him about some of the signature features, and he yelled, "Toilets!"
Oh my God.
1,160 toilets and urinals, 3 times the NBA average.
So funny.
We don't want people waiting around. We want them back to their damn seats.
That is so funny.
And he probably said that a lot louder than I did. He actually yelled it out. Not every day you see the owner of a professional sports franchise going on about toilets.
No,
But
that's
I'm here
true.
for it.
In fact, I've never heard that before.
Right. You may never hear it again.
I'm hoping that's the case. All right, what else we got besides toilets?
Former Seattle Sonic great Sean Kemp was arrested in an alleged drive-by shooting. Alleged. Before anybody gets all out of shape.
Yep.
Woj cited Pierce Washington corrections inmate listings and said that Kemp was booked. Why he's looking at these, I don't know. But he just goes everywhere for stuff. It was an altercation. Shots were fired between people in two cars. One took off. Apparently Kemp didn't. The gun was recovered. There are no injuries. And on socials, I'm hearing the same old crap about people saying, well, Sean Kemp, he's always in trouble. You know, the last time he had anything like this was in 2006. So
yeah, it's been a little while.
He's not always in trouble, but when he is, he does it right.
It's like we need a most interesting man in the world commercial with this. I don't always get in trouble, but when I do,
not a man of genius.
I
but
shoot my load. That's the punchline with Sean Kemp. Guns, 9,000 kids. There we go.
Yes.
All right. What else we got?
Okay, Mookie Wilson.
Yes.
You haven't heard from Mookie in a while.
No, it's been a while.
Which was Pearl Jam's original band name.
Mookie Wilson?
Because Eddie Vedder is a huge sports fan.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that I knew.
And Mookie said, nope, trademark, can't do it. But Mookie insists he would have beaten Bill Buckner to first in the 86 World Series.
Of course he does.
Direct quote, Bill and I had this conversation many times. Many times we've talked about it. And we actually sat there and watched the game together and dissected the whole thing, Bill and I. We both agreed that even if he catches the ball, he said, I don't think I'd beat you to the bag even if I caught the ball because of the momentum and the way he was so far off the line.
Right.
He's going away and back. I have motion. Said the pitcher's out of the play. He's got no chance, which is another conversation you can have a lot about. But what is with Mookie in these conversations?
I think Mookie Wilson has been having beers with Mercury Morris lately. By the way, speaking of Mercury Morris, I saw a photo. I don't know from how long ago it was, but it doesn't look like it was all that long ago based on the age of the people in it. I saw a photo of Jim Boeheim posing with, it was Floyd Little, Larry Zonka, hence the Mercury Morris reference, and Tom Coughlin, and a guy who owns some radio stations, Ed Levine, who I know a little bit. Anyway, I just thought to myself, man, Zonka's probably 70 something in this picture, and he still looks scary. What an ox.
He's got hunting shows on a couple of the outdoor channels. He's
just a grade A bumpkin, just a beast of a man. I just can't.
He's a mountain man.
I just can't imagine having to tackle that guy. I mean, what a horrible thing to have to do. I mean, like between him and Earl Campbell, I mean, they weren't on the same team, but they played around the same time. Campbell a little bit later, but like, man, yeah, no thanks. I would say if we ever did a top 5 on NFL power backs, I would say those two would be near the top of my list. So
I'm jotting that down.
Yes, I guess we're going to skip the top 5 today. We'll be back at it tomorrow. But
yeah, well, we only had one more of those to go anyway.
Yeah. So we'll finish out the week. So, but it's good stuff. That was just a crazy picture because I mean, Zonka looks like he could still like go out there and bale some hay and do whatever.
Oh yeah, Zonka's still scary looking.
He really is. I thought about that way about Jim Brown until like the last couple of years. Now he like walks with a cane or sometimes even a walker. He's a little hunched over now, but up until he was about 80 years old or close to it, Jim Brown still looks terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
That's another guy. I'm glad I didn't have to tackle him. No, thanks. All right, we got time for maybe one or two more. What else we got?
Okay, Pelicans gave an update yesterday on Zion Williamson. He is not close to returning. Quote, I think his setback was significant.
Yikes.
This is just, it's not specific, but they're on the edge of the play-in tournament. If he does come back, how's he going to look? How's he going to be able to play? If he does come back, will there be enough time to solidify a spot? What do you think it's a lost season for Zion?
Not only do I think it's a lost season, I think we're edging up on, if not a fully lost career, a greatly neutered career. I mean, this guy's not a first or second year guy anymore. Was his year 3? Year 4? Yeah. So, and I mean, when have we seen him play a full season? Even by quote unquote load management standards, when have we seen him play a full season?
Well, I'll answer that. Never.
Right.
Because in 3 of his 4 years, if he doesn't play anymore this season, he played less than 30 games.
That's not enough. I mean, even in load management, like I always say, I'm okay with guys playing 60 or so games a year. Generally speaking, it's not ideal, but I'm okay with it. It doesn't drive me crazy. But less than that, and you just can't, if you're an important piece like that, or if you're the piece, it's not going to work. And
True.
It's just not going to work. And I remember saying from the very beginning, back when he was at Duke and Ja Morant was at Murray State, I said, there's no question in my mind that I would draft Ja Morant over Zion Williamson. No doubt about it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I mean, it was so obvious to me. And I mean, Zion's awesome, if he plays. He doesn't
Less
play
than
enough.
30 games, 3 out of 4 years, if he doesn't play another game this season.
Yeah.
Nowhere near enough.
How many games did he play in the 1 year that he didn't play just 30?
Give me a second.
Now,
let me check. Talk amongst yourselves.
I'm going to guess like 57 or maybe 61, something like that. Because I think that was like last year where he played a lot of the year, but he finished the year with an injury. I think he played in the high 50s or low 60s.
Let me see. 61.
Guess. Yeah. Why do I know that off the top of my head?
Because you're as bad as I am.
Like, I never looked that up. Why do I know that? That's horrible. All right. Well, there you go. So
I got time for one quick one.
Let's do it.
The Celtics and Pacers are watching the NBA's 3-team race to the bottom. Right now, it looks like the Pistons, Rockets, and Spurs will finish as the NBA's worst 3 teams.
Yes.
Pistons and Spurs control some draft capital, but not their firsts. But the Celtics in Indiana, the Pacers spent 4 second-rounders to get a pick in the 2021 draft. And they used that pick to grab Andrew Nembhard, who's been okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have enough draft capital and own some of the Spurs where they can get the Spurs pick. Boston's got kind of the same thing with Houston.
Wait, so there's a chance that Wembanyama could go to Boston?
Boston or Indiana, yeah.
I mean, Indiana would be one thing. They're not awful, but they're far from good. If Wembanyama goes to Boston, that's going to be funny as hell.
Can you imagine if they do get him?
That would be hilarious.
I mean, I think people would flip.
They probably will. But, I mean, look, they're legal trades, right? They didn't do anything wrong. They made trades, and, I mean, look, if San Antonio, defended someone this year at any point, they might not be in this position. I think I could go out there and average about 8 points a game against that Spurs defense.
Who do they have to defend anyone, though?
I don't know. Who do they have? I mean, we did this in the preseason. Like we could put like a waiver wire team together.
We did.
We did. We put a couple together, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to expand to 32. Gary, why don't you and I take the franchises and let's go nuts?
Let's do it, man. Can we get it? Can we get that franchise on credit? I'll pay you back from revenues. I don't know. The benefactor here.
That's right.
Ay. All right. Well, there you go. That's interesting. I'll tell you what. Here's an interesting question. If you're Boston, let's play this out for a second. Let's say you land the pick. That would be Wembanyama. You're a team that's competing for a championship. Hell, you might win it this year. Do you do the unthinkable and trade that pick for like a blue chip player? Like let's say you get that pick. Do you call up, I don't know, say Indiana, or do you call up maybe Detroit? Do you call up I don't know, a team like the Lakers? Like do you try to get like an established star? Like do you try to get, like, say, Halliburton or Cade Cunningham? Or do you try to get like an even more established star? Because Wembanyama, you could probably about name your price from what I've read about him. Or do you just
Why would you not want him though?
Well, that's what I mean. I'm just asking because if you're already like an established winning team, which they are,
right? But that's not a team that has a superstar center or anything.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you might just.
Can you imagine making that team unbeatable?
That would be something. That would be fun, actually. I kind of want that to happen. Look, I'm not one of these people that's like roots for the underdog. I always root for greatness, and that would just be cool to see a great player, a potentially great player, go to an actually great team. Because how often does that happen in any sport? Almost never. When was the last time a great player went to a great team? Or even a good team? Like
Tim Duncan?
Yeah, they were like decent, right? But they had the number one pick for a reason.
Right.
I think Robinson
because
was
Robinson was hurt the year before.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so Tim Duncan's probably the most recent example. You're probably right. I mean, God, Cleveland was awful when they got LeBron.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about number one overall picks now. I'm not talking about like first rounders. But yeah, it's tough. So it would be cool to see a great player go to a good situation.
It would. I'd be interested.
And oh boy. And I'm a Laker fan saying this. I mean, certainly the Celtics being pretty well indestructible won't make me happy, but it certainly would be an interesting thing to watch. So
it would.
There you have it. All right. Well, we will wrap it up here. We will see you guys tomorrow to close out the week. And we will be looking to get back into the top 5 discussion. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 to noon. Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.